Welcome to Wrestling Raw! All right, you're listening to Wrestling Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Raw became more and Attitude ruled. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
That baby doesn't have a mama for 30 days. That's not right.
Joe Giammatteo.
I haven't weighed 83 pounds since kindergarten.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett. We're going to examine WWE history one pay-per-view at a time. That's right, folks. This is a special pay-per-view episode, so pay-per-view stipulations are in effect. We're going to be giving our star ratings. Joe's going to be giving us Meltzer's star ratings. We're going to talk about whether or not we got our money's worth at the end of things, and it's going to be a good time. And just a reminder to our loyal listeners out there, and anybody that might be looking to get into us, go out there, listen, rate, review. It's the best way to spread the word, the good word that is the gospel of Wrestling Raw. So, without further ado, in this episode of Wrestling Raw, we're going to be talking about In Your House 17, Ground Zero. This pay-per-view aired on September 7th, 1997, and was recorded at the Louisville Gardens in Louisville, Kentucky. Features Vince McMahon, Jim Ross, and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then. Let's get into it. He was once the most respected superstar in WWF history. I think that was a little more dependent on who you ask, but I digress. This opening video was all about Shawn Michaels, really leaning into Shawn's victimhood in this package, as well as his poor attitude leading into tonight's championship match. Not championship match, match with The Undertaker. Post-championship match.
A main event.
Main event, yeah. Well, you know, the actual championship match is just so important and compelling in this pay-per-view that I want to just automatically assume that, you know, headliners like Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker are in it, as opposed to Del Wilkes.
So important, it's the second to last match.
Yeah.
Did you guys notice that Del Wilkes does not have as much of a shit-kicking accent as the Patriot does?
Yeah. Yeah, he really amps up the shit.
He really turns
when he
it up.
puts on the mask.
Yeah.
One thing that was really nice right off the top here was that this opening voiceover did not feature Todd Pettingzoo. If you'll remember, Pettingzoo is supposed to be out of the picture here.
Mm-hmm.
They've put him out to pasture, so to speak.
It was not nice, however, to hear Vince roaring that we would see the Mighty Minis in action. And we got a full video package and review of the Love Child situation. Love Child 1997 here, as we went into our first match of the night. Brian Pillman defeats Goldust with Marlena by pinfall in 11 minutes and 5 seconds. There's a lot of emphasis put on little Dakota Runnels at the start of this in that video package, so we started at dud because of that. Deep hole to dig out of. I hated how the happy couple marched to the ring hand in hand as if they were exiting the church after getting married. Did you guys notice that? Like, all it was missing was somebody throwing fucking rice at them or something.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Commentary just would not let up on talking about the domestic situation, Dustin and Terry and Brian and who dumped who and who's on the rebound. I was just immediately fucking sick of it. Goldust's vinyl suit looks like it's falling apart. I feel like we've talked about that before. Like it was flaking before or something.
He must be rough on these suits.
Yeah. We got a close-up of like stretch marks and like cracks and splits on his ass, like going up the small of his back. It was about this point that I made the official determination that I never want to hear the words Dustin, Terry, or Dakota ever fucking again. Ever.
Well, you're in
again.
trouble, pal.
Yeah. Right. I hated Goldust holding Pillman so that Terry could slap him. I did have to laugh at Hebner throwing himself down after being hit by Pillman's flailing arm. That was like a soccer dive. Hebner just sold that so terribly. It was horrible.
Yellow card.
Yeah. We got to the finish. The finish was all right, I guess. Marlena's loaded purse ultimately was the deciding factor. Pillman was able to get that on Goldust while The ref was distracted. And since this is in no way the real world, Pillman dragged Marlena off up the entryway. And no, that's not kidnapping, folks. That's the outcome of a wrestling match. Commentary did pull the brick out of Marlena's purse to show it to us, so that was actually pretty funny. I liked that. And that was while we got a view backstage of Pillman throwing Marlena in the backseat of a car and driving off while Goldust chased after it. And that's it for this match, gentlemen. I could not get past the insufferable storytelling surrounding the match and ended up keeping this as a dud. Ryan, please, what'd you have on this match?
At the start of the match, Vince McMahon says that this is the first time a manager's service has been put on the line, and I don't have a clear example of it, but I feel like that can't be right? I mean, it feels like...
That does feel wrong.
This feels like the type of gimmick match that would have happened back in the territory days, like weekly. I don't... Yeah. I can't believe that this is the first time there's ever been...
I'm sure somebody put Handsome Harvey up at some point.
Exactly.
Right.
But that already seemed like a lie going into it. One thing that was interesting, staying with Vince, is he brought up, Joe, what you mentioned a few weeks ago, that Brian Pillman and Marlena did have a relationship prior to her and Goldust getting together. So they're building that story a little bit more here. But the wrestling, again, I said this the last time they tied up with each other, it just doesn't feel like a pay-per-view match. Yeah. I thought this one was a little bit better action-wise than the last one, but it's still just seems like it should be on Raw or, Sunday Superstars. It's that caliber of a match. It's not a pay-per-view thing. Things end up slowing down until we do finally get the ending with the brick. I'm getting a little bit more, at least, interested in the story, and it looks like the crowd is too. They were getting a little bit more involved. They were booing Brian Pillman, and someone out in the crowd had a big giant 30 Days with Pillman sign, so... It does look like the storyline's starting to catch a little bit, but this match still wasn't anything all that great. They're doing way too much of the mommy and daddy talk, and I really, really hate, you brought it up, using Dustin, his real name. It just completely kills the gimmick and just crushes it into the ground.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it as much as you. I ended up going with a 1 star on this one.
Well, you guys know I love my... bad soap opera angles.
You were that kid. You were that kid with that sign. It's all excited
I loved
about
it.
Pillman with the dress on.
I didn't like the wrestling aspect of it, but I did like the end with the kidnapping. Jerry Lawler was saying, "She's all yours, Brian," and then JR was mocking him. "She's all yours, Brian. She's all yours, Brian. Listen to you." I thought that was funny. But yeah, this is crossing paths between a terrible soap opera and a bad thriller type movie. So I gave it 3 stars. I loved it.
Jesus, fuck.
By the way, these fans it's Louisville, right?
Yeah.
They are bloodthirsty perverts just like me because they were loving every second of it here.
They're old-timey fans there in Louisville.
Yeah. Dave Meltzer actually praised he didn't praise it, but he said that the wrestling was actually not bad. He said, although Pillman was limited by his bad ankle, this was his best performance since his accident.
Yeah, I definitely thought the action was better between these two than last month.
Yeah, he gave it 2.5 stars, so he didn't particularly hate it either.
What pisses me off the most about this is that if it were left at just Goldust, Marlena, Pillman stipulation for Marlena, if we could just not have the family thing, the fucking Dakota thing, leave all of that out, I would probably be a hell of a lot more up on this than I am.
Well, maybe the next match will get you up.
Yeah. Oh, I'm already up just thinking about it. We did
Soon we'll be laying on the ground, holding our knee.
Oh my God. We did get some more footage of Goldust going ballistic in the locker room. I guess the police weren't an option here for some reason.
Well, he signed the contract.
Yeah. Indentured servitude. That holds up in court all the time.
To be fair, if the police in Louisville are as good at their job as the medics in Louisville, then I'd be in trouble.
Don't move him.
See that on display right now.
As you said, I mean, let's all get hard for this next match. Brian Christopher defeats Scott Putski by injury in 4 minutes and 40 seconds. For the record, everybody, this is the shortest match of the night. Even the fucking midgets last longer than the light heavyweights here. Scott Putski, one of the worst tans I've ever seen. It's like he got dipped in bronzer or something. Like he looked like he was going to start smearing all over everything like Gold Dust's makeup. I did love how Scott Putski got booed when he tried to work the crowd. That was good to see. And I also loved Brian Christopher spitting into the crowd. That was quite the lung oyster he launched out there at them.
Oh, that was so gross.
I feel bad for whoever he hit. And I did laugh when Brian Christopher almost botched launching himself over the top rope. Lawler called it beautiful, and you could hear him like choking back laughter. It was great. The finish is the first time I've ever heard a ring announcer say this match is concluded by injury. Putski was like laying on the outside holding his knee after some kind of a, leap from the apron or something. I mean, I was barely paying attention to this because Scott Putski is that disinteresting. But I did think it was funny that Putski's knee can stop a match, but Austin's broken freaking neck can't. This was a dud.
I think that more speaks volumes to the caliber of wrestler than it does anyone else.
Well, they had to change that title, pal.
Glorify Austin, but not Putski. Austin kept going. He's something for the kids to look up to.
Exactly. Not a quitter like Putski.
Must be Polish for pussy. Dud. Yeah, no more explanation needed. It was to be expected with Scott Dudsky here. Joe, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, there's not much to say. The guy blew out his leg or whatever, so...
Yeah.
I gave it a dud. Also, the medics get a dud, too. What the fuck?
They didn't give two shits about his patella being dislocated.
They took like 25 minutes to get out there.
They came up and were like, what's a patella?
Just sat there. They grabbed onto it and just started moving it around on the front of his knee.
Is this supposed to be there?
That's kind of loose.
Out of the gate, though, I'm doubling down from last week what I said about Brian Christopher. He came out and, man, he's a hateable heel. This crowd hated him. The way he's shaking his head and laughing at them, they hated him, and they wanted to punch him, and so did I. So, good job, Brian Christopher. Scott Putski, on the other hand, Bartlett, you alluded to it. It looks like he spent every waking moment since the last time we saw him in a tanning bed.
Yeah.
He's like 9 shades darker than the last time.
What's that Farouk said last week? You can sandblast his ass 20 times.
And that's true here. Putski, my lord, is he bad in the ring. It's almost offensive how bad he is. He's like 3 gears slower than everyone else he's up against. He tries to do a hurricanrana that is one of the most ugly, telegraphed, mechanical-looking hurricanranas I've ever seen in my life, and he got rewarded by blowing his knee out almost immediately. How could we give anything other than a dud to this? It didn't go anywhere. We got an actual injury that ended the match. So, yeah, dud.
Joe, what did Meltzer think of this one?
He gave it a half a star. He thinks that Putski tore a quad, which kind of makes sense because it did look like it was kind of rolled up a little bit.
Yeah. We got a good promo from Farouk leading us into some faction action, as commentary was saying.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we also got promos from Savio and Crush. Neither of them were any good. Crush did threaten to ride up people's asses, though. Very typical.
I felt like I had my ass rode pretty hard during this.
Yep. The old honey dipper in action as we go into our next match. Savio Vega defeats Crush and Farouk by pinfall in 11 minutes and 39 seconds in a triple threat match. Oh, man, I hated how much crowd reaction Crush was getting. Like, what a bunch of fucking idiots cheering for him.
Meltzer had a funny comment for once here. He said that it was the bike that gets the pop, not Crush.
Oh. That's pretty good. I'll give it to him on that one. A lot of time passed in this with me not taking any notes because Crush. I mean, what more is there to say than that? And I do hate to say that because I am a fan of Savio when he's not doing this fucking Los Burritos thing. I am a fan of Farouk. I don't want to give either of them a dud, But that's where this started for the simple fact that Crush was in it. I wasn't excited going into this. Nothing in the lead up to the pay-per-view made any difference in the excitement levels. Nothing we got during the match changed that. By about the time that Farouk and Crush were talking and then double teaming Savio, with commentary guessing that Crush might rejoin the nation or Farouk might join the DOA, I was fucking over it. Done. Didn't want to keep on watching it. It was at this point in the pay-per-view where I started getting angry that I had to keep watching this shit. Crush botched a spike pile driver. That was right before delivering the heart punch directly to Farouk's forehead. And when Savio did finally get the victory, I was just happy that this was over. Once again, not impressed by anything here. It was another dud. Ryan, please, your thoughts.
Yeah, wasn't looking forward to this one for sure. Seeing Crush's face on the screen, it could ruin anyone's day. For the most part, Savio and Farouk, when they were able to separate and get away from Crush, things would look fine, as you'd expect from these two guys, but the moment Crush would shoehorn himself into the action, he'd bring it down. And that's kind of the progression of this entire match. Every once in a while would get a couple things that are okay between Savio and Farouk, and then Crush ruins it. Just rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
Vince had the best line of the night. I think unknowingly, he warned us all that unbeknownst to Farouk, Crush is lurking. Yes, Vince, Crush is always lurking, ready to pounce and ruin any match or episode at a moment's notice.
God.
And then it got slowed way down towards the end of this match. And that's when I looked at my watch and was like, how long is this match going to go on? Because it went on way too long. And then we end it giving the win to the faction that doesn't have any juice with the crowd whatsoever. No sense whatsoever. And then, of course, to top it off, we had to sit through Crush's fucking face this entire time. So, yeah, big old dud on this one.
Yeah, this was just lazy, unorganized mess, or just Crush just sucks. So even if it came off as lazy, but it's probably just because of Crush. Also, they keep doing this storyline. We keep getting this every week on Raw where the Bariquas are stealing the bikes, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happened? Did they fucking just get them back?
Well, I think they've been coming out on different ones because they were talking about how they had Titan ones a while ago. And then a couple weeks ago, I heard, well, this week they have Harleys. So,
okay. They keep shoving it down our throat every week, but then it goes nowhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They just get new bikes.
Yeah. And get no retaliation for getting their bikes taken. What type of gang are they?
Exactly. It's like they're building a story, but they're not even using it. It's a horrible match. I gave it a dud. Fuck it.
Yeah, what'd Meltzer think? He probably loved it.
He fucking hated it. Probably more than us. He
hated it.
Yes. Negative 1.5 stars.
Ooh.
He said, this match went too long and got really bad. It's a candidate for worst match of the year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we got Dave Meltzer in our corner tonight.
Yeah. Reaching back through the past to influence the business.
He may ruin it on the next match, but
don't
look at that.
Don't
5.
do that.
5.
God. We did get another commercial for the Stone Cold Said So VHS tape. I can't believe we're still selling that, but I mean, it's not surprising, but I just thought we would have moved on to some other, remixed, re-edited VHS with a different title.
Strike while
You
it's
want
hot.
a Patriot Del Wilkes video is what you want.
Yeah, one of those 15-minute, slow play VHSs.
Yeah.
You have to set your VCR to a special setting for it.
Yep.
All right, let's get this over with. Our next match. Max Mini defeats El Torito by pinfall in 9 minutes and 20 seconds. I spent the majority of this match cursing my life and anyone that had any hand in bringing me to this point. When we got to one of the midgets literally biting the referee on the ass, my thumb was right on that fast forward button. Like, I don't remember what time, like what point in time in the match that was, but it was too damn soon because there was way too much left after it. Such an enormous waste of time and my patience. I almost missed the spot where El Torito kicked Max Mini square in the face, though. I mean, that was kind of entertaining. But that was it. I mean, Max Mini's springboard move onto El Torito from the ropes to the outside, that was like kind of impressive, but with the tension of the ropes and the fact that Max Mini weighs all of 25 fucking pounds, like, it's not really that impressive. And again, I was very grateful to have this match over. Once it got over, it was a dud. I had been hoping we were past this shit, but as Lord Thomas would say, fuck me, I guess. Joe, please, what did you think of this?
Basically, from the beginning of this show until this moment, I have to remind myself that we're not quite in the Attitude Era yet. Like, we're not quite to the real good stuff. Like, WWF kind of peaked from 99 to 2001. Like, that was kind of the peak.
Yeah.
So we're not there yet. So we still get stupid shit like this. I tried to give this a chance. Like, I thought when they came out, I was like, well, maybe they're going to do some crazy flipping shit that will be.
And they did it kind of at first.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
How long was this match, Bartlett?
9 minutes and 20 seconds.
9 minutes and 20, too long. Really.
Yeah,
I mean, as soon as he started biting the ref's ass and sitting on Lawler's lap, I just gave it a dud.
And yeah, that's exactly where I'm going to pick up, because I gave it a dud the moment they started with the ass biting. Like, is there some unwritten, or maybe it's a written law in wrestling that if you have midgets in a wrestling match, they have to bite people's asses? It happens in every single match they're involved in.
Oh, that's right. Donk didn't. Yeah.
Donk did it.
What the fuck was his name? Dink.
I remember when I was a little kid going to watch the local wrestling. Every time they had midgets, they bit people on the ass. What is it? I mean, where did this stereotype come from?
Tenacious,
that midgets like to bite people's asses. It's absurd. It's fucking absurd. There's nothing to talk about in this zero build-up match that they gave us with these minis. It's a dud. Dud all the way.
Yeah, and that lack of build-up, I mean, if they would have just given 15 minutes to discussing the rich history of midget lucha libre wrestling, maybe it could have sold it for us.
Maybe. Or if they could have, on a Raw, maybe did a deep dive on the history as to why there's so much ass biting in these, I would have cared.
JR could have sat down with El Torito to, discuss with him what drives him to bite asses, maybe. So 5 stars, right, Joe?
Well, 2 3/4 is what he did.
Oh my God.
This highlighted their ability to do spots.
Right.
Yeah.
Ugh. Well, let's get far away from that. We got a video review next of the tag team title situation, starting with multiple replay angles of Stone Cold Steve Austin getting his freaking neck broken again. This is every week since it happened.
We're going to milk it.
Ugh.
If he can't get in there, you're making money for us. We're going to strip it out of him somehow.
Pimp out that injury a little harder. Part of that whole thing was a shockingly bad pre-recorded video of Commissioner Slaughter sitting at that, I swear it's the same office that Jack Tunney used to sit in, and then IRS whenever he was doing his promos. He had a little official seal of the commissioner of the WWF up there on the screen, like it was just fucking official and important. I did like that part. Slaughter then came down to the ring to be interviewed by JR regarding the vacating of the tag team titles. This whole thing was just bizarre to me. It felt like less than 3 months ago we had Shawn Michaels vacating his half and Dude Love just randomly getting that spot. Now Austin has to vacate his half, and rather than randomly throwing someone else in there, we're just going to vacate the titles altogether. It's just, like I said, it's bizarre. I'm not exactly complaining about that because it's kind of a chance for a clean slate for these titles, but...
And they're going to surely capitalize on that later.
I have to maintain some kind of optimism after the midget match, Ryan.
It's like these titles have been cursed for quite a few years now.
My personal hope was that, I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I thought that it would have been a perfect, amazing opportunity to give both Dude Love and Mankind the tag team titles and just have him represent both sides and get the shit beat out of him in tag team matches. Like, just for a week or two. Maybe you're just until the next pay-per-view, but missed opportunity there. Dude Love came out to hand over his belts, likewise with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Austin said he thinks everyone's had enough of the repeated views of him getting dropped on his head. Couldn't agree more, Steve. Thank you. There was more to it than that, but suffice it to say, the crowd was loving it. Austin was fucking with Commissioner Slaughter, just really taking advantage of the whole no censors on pay-per-view thing. There in the ring, JR ended up getting a stunner. JR sold it like shit, but I loved it. I mean, that was great. Officials came down and got involved. Dude Love had to hold Austin back. Cartoon medics with big red crosses on their backs got called in for JR and jostled his head around quite a bit. Vince was there acting all concerned, and I guess they did not come down with a stretcher or board. Vince was yelling, "We'll go get the board!"
They needed it for Putski. They never brought it back.
We got a promo from Owen Hart and the British Bulldog after that, with Owen flipping out about how Austin treated JR. And that's it for this. Guys, I'm going to pause it here because this in-ring interaction between Dude Love, JR, Stone Cold Steve Austin, for me at least, was the best and only entertaining thing so far in this pay-per-view. We don't rate this stuff, but I would have given this a solid 4 stars. Maybe it's just because I was starved for good content up until this point, but Joe, did you have anything on this?
Yeah, this show in general went from a 0 to a 10 for me just by seeing this. Austin gets introduced and the crowd just explodes. They want blood, you know. This guy comes out, he's giving the double bird to Jim Ross and they pop for that. He's just pissed off, gives him the stunner. In my opinion, this is the best version of Stone Cold Steve Austin. This is the pre-beer drinking, the, pre-Mr. McMahon stuff. And I just really love it.
Full on rattlesnake right now.
Rattlesnake, pissed off.
Don't trust anyone.
Yeah.
They say it all the time, this was, who doesn't want to beat the shit out of their boss and give him the finger, and that's really the start of this because now he's stunning JR. They already have the plan in place for him to do it to Vince and I think doesn't he end up doing it to Sergeant Slaughter too at some point?
I mean, pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. So they probably have those plans, and I guess we'll get to what Vince says when they come back from this, but it's already a good plan. They were dealt this shitty situation, and they've really creative has done a good job with this. And I also want to point out what a fantastic job that Dude Love did as a handler of Stone Cold Steve Austin, because this is complete chaos in the ring. And Dude Love is there acting like, the handler for this wild maniac. So I thought that was a nice touch there. When Stone Cold Steve Austin was walking back up the ramp, he took his shirt off at the top of the ramp, and to no surprise, Dave Hebner appeared as soon as the man took his shirt off. So
you need some oil there, Steve.
Yeah, I love this. I thought this was just these are the little things that remind me, okay, we're not quite at the Attitude Era yet, but this is really good shit building up to it.
Yeah, I also loved it. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time just kind of regurgitating what you guys already went over about the segment, because it just kind of all worked from the moment Dude Love came down and Stone Cold and him talking with Slaughter, telling him to give him 20. And Joe, you kind of talked about it. This is where they really started to amp up the anti-authority play with Stone Cold. And you could see that. I mean, he's been diving into it for sure, but, now with his neck injury, they know that they're going to have to do something a little bit more story-oriented with him, and as we will find out very soon, they're going to knock it out of the park with this one, and he started doing a really great job of it here because the crowd was eating every moment of it, and I loved it too. Yeah, great segment.
Every time he threatens to beat the hell out of McMahon, the crowd explodes. Like you can just feel, but McMahon, especially, like they're building up to that, and it's just so perfect.
Joe, you pointed it out, and I hadn't thought about it until you said it, but I remember watching it and waiting for Dude Love to catch a stunner, but he was one of the few people that didn't. He was that perfect, I mean, maybe not trusted, but he was the one person that didn't get the double bird from Austin there. He was the one person kind of safe in the ring. So I'm curious to see if that's going to matter at all in the future. Probably not, but so let's see here. We've got that clean slate. We've got nobody with the tag team titles. Let's see if we can parlay that into a fresh new era with our next match. The Headbangers defeat the Legion of Doom, the Godwins, and the Hart Foundation, Owen Hart and the British Bulldog, by pinfall in 17 minutes and 15 seconds in a fatal four-way elimination match to win the WWF Tag Team Championship. We had pretty decent promos from everyone leading into this. I was honestly surprised at how good the Godwins promo was. That's one of those instances where we're so close to a good heel tag team. If we can just get over the slop bucket and get over the shitty booking, give them something to really work with, the Godwins can shine there. And we saw that in the promo, I felt. But we went and got to LOD. Hawk started his bit with, "Well," and I popped. Once the match got started, there was a lot of stalling in it, and I just kind of glossed over it before, but JR got taken out of the ring area by those medics. That left just Vince and the King on commentary, so Vince was left to pick up for JR, and that will remain throughout the rest of the pay-per-view. I did have to laugh when Vince came close to saying, "This one is over," on a 2 count, with all 4 teams still present. You fucking idiot.
Wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Well, he was flustered by Steve Austin there, that jackass.
It's just uncalled for. LOD got eliminated by disqualification after taking the slop bucket from Phineas and then attacking the Godwins with it. I did think that was a good way to get them out and kept them looking strong, saving face. Thrasher pinned Phineas to eliminate the Godwins, and I absolutely loved Austin showing up to screw Owen Hart and give the Headbangers the victory. That was good shit, pal. And that's it. The Headbangers ended up as the WWF Tag Team Champions. Fresh starts. We've got a new, somewhat modern tag team, an actual tag team as the champions here. Experienced, there was quite a bit of crowd energy behind this too, because I don't know if you guys will remember this or not, but the Headbangers come from Smoky Mountain Wrestling, Jim Cornette's outfit, the Louisville native there. So there were probably quite a few fans in the audience that were already familiar with the Headbangers, and I think that little victory lap they did out in the crowd was a nod to that, something special for the fans. But you know what? My whole fresh start for the tag division thing, maybe it's just wishful thinking, I don't know, but I really wanted to be positive about this whole thing, so I ended up going with 2 stars on this. Ryan, what'd you think of it?
Yeah, we learned at the beginning of this that the Headbangers were apparently partying at the MTV Music Awards with Marilyn Manson, so that was kind of interesting. And a little bit later in the match, we get Vince telling us, I'm not sure if it was Vince or Lawler, but they bring up what Marilyn Manson was wearing. And do you guys remember that infamous outfit?
Oh, was that the skin tight latex suit?
The hermaphrodite
with the boobs, yeah. The silver suit with the boobs?
Not the silver one. I believe that was a video. He had like a turquoise and orange one or something that he wore at the... Anyway, that was what they were alluding to, the suit in this. And I thought that conversation was infinitely more interesting than anything this Fatal 4-Way had to offer. I think one of the worst parts of it was just how long this match drug on. It just seemed like it was never going to end. And I felt like they were told to make up some of the lost time from the Brian Christopher Scott Putski injury. Like they were like, you got a few extra minutes. Let's add to it. I didn't think there was much here. It ended with kind of like I talked about in the other match. We give the belts to the team we haven't cared or focused on in months. The Headbangers. Like, why the fuck did they win the belts here? And I don't know, maybe they're just transitional tag team holders and we're going to very quickly get some new guys here, but I guess I would agree that it wasn't a dud, but I couldn't go any higher than a 1 star.
Yeah, at the beginning, when Bulldog and Owen were entering the ring, Vince mentioned that the Bulldog is going to defend the European title against Shawn Michaels at one night only pay-per-view.
Oh,
Yeah.
that one over in England.
Yeah.
He threw that in there out of nowhere, so that's going to happen. I thought this match was a complete steaming pile. I had a fairly busy weekend and I had to watch this show in 2 or 3 parts. Normally when I do that, I will pause the show. I'll let a match, go through, then I'll stop it and
Not
come
to
back later.
Stop in the middle of a match.
Well, this one I did. Because
well, it was 53 minutes.
yeah, well, it was just so flat. Like, I don't know. I was not into this at all until Austin showed up to stun Owen.
Same thing with the crowd.
Yeah.
That was the loudest we heard from them all night, was Stone Cold coming out.
We're going to get that a lot eventually with, Austin making these surprise appearances, kind of like that night that Mick Foley won the title.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Kind of gave me, flashbacks to that. It's like, well, we're going to get this kind of stuff a lot. And this crowd just exploded again when he came out. So I thought that helped it out a little bit. But yeah, this was totally a dud for me. And I kept it there just because I just thought this sucked. And I'm with you, Ryan, on the headbangers. Like, I don't think they don't deserve it or anything, but there was zero buildup to this for them.
Yeah, I'm not saying like I hate them or that they're bad wrestlers, just like out of nowhere. Like they've been in the background for months now.
I think they were sold a little bit short here. Like they got the titles, but nobody cares.
Yeah, but why?
Yeah.
So I would argue that it would have been that way regardless of who won, with maybe the exception of LOD.
LOD would have been my thought as to who would have got them. Or if Owen and Davey Boy got them, everyone would have been, okay, they won them again.
Yeah.
But it would have felt fitting, at least.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just trying to maintain some kind of optimism for that. What'd Meltzer think of this?
He gave it a dud. He said that the match was actually in the negatives, except for the last minute. The last minute was good. He also noted that the Bulldog has been dropping some weight due to a knee issue. He's got bad knees, so he's not pushing the gas pedal as hard, I don't think, anymore.
I was going to say, do you think that maybe has more to do with the stricter drug policy at the WWF?
No, it's his bad knees.
Okay.
Moving on, we got a video of Sergeant Slaughter, Commissioner Slaughter, and JR backstage. JR was very unhappy about the situation.
Red ass JR.
Yes, this was very much red ass JR. He had the same kind of dangerous work environment argument that Shawn Michaels had a couple months ago.
Yeah, we've heard it before, yeah.
Just not right.
It's just not right.
I didn't come here to be treated like this. That was followed by a video package highlighting the rivalry between Bret Hart and the Patriot with an expose interview of a maskless Del Wilkes, and we got a petting zoo voiceover for that. What a
it's fitting
double whammy of shit.
Yeah, it's fitting.
After that, Sonny was backstage with the Patriot for the Patriot to give a promo. It was also shit. And that is what took us into our next match. Bret the Hitman Hart defeats the Patriot by submission in 19 minutes and 20 seconds to retain the WWF Championship. I felt that Bret Hart's pre-match promo adequately communicated his disgust at having to wrestle the Patriot, and I was very sympathetic to that sentiment. I was just equally disgusted at having to watch it. I was not at all excited at the prospect of almost 20 minutes with the Patriot. I had no idea how this was going to play out because I honestly didn't think that fucking Del Wilkes had 20 minutes in him. I don't know about you guys, but I used this opportunity to get a jump on some of my tax filings for 2023. The litter box was already sparkling clean after that Gold Dust match, but there were a couple things here and there that I got caught up on. And I really hate to say that about a Bret Hart match. I truly do. But there was absolutely nothing about this that I found entertaining. The Patriot sucks in the ring, sucks out of the ring too, but how shitty the Patriot is something that limited what Bret could do with him. Because one thing that we know about Bret Hart is that the only things that Bret Hart are going to do are the things that make Bret look good or make Bret money. I mean, usually those go hand in hand, but when you have somebody as shitty as the fucking Patriot in there with him, there's only so much Bret can do with that. Vince's commentary was certainly lackluster throughout this, and while Lawler did have some entertaining parts, they were generally in response to Vince's dumbass comments. At about the time that the Bulldog came out to support Bret, I was checking to see how much time was left in the pay-per-view. At one point, Vader came out, I guess to defend the honor of the Patriot, attacking the Bulldog and Bret both. I started flirting with the idea of a negative star rating.
I thought you were going to say you started crying.
Tears of happiness.
Touched me so much. I was amazed that the Patriot could accurately apply the sharpshooter to Bret. I mean, he took his time to get it on there, but he did get there. And I did finally get some enjoyment knowing that the finish was a submission, though. I wish Bret would have just used that sharpshooter to fucking break that asshole in half. Bret breaking the American flag in half and then strangling the Patriot with it was a very nice touch, I thought. It's just a shame that we had to sit through, like, the match to get to that point. And, guys, this might be controversial, but as much as I hated this match, I did end up on 1 star rather than a dud, strictly because the goddamn Patriot tapped out to the sharpshooter. There is no other reason for my 1 star rating. I hated all damn near 20 minutes of it, except for the moment where the Patriot submitted to Bret Hart. Joe, please, what did you think of this match?
Well, I'll start with the interviews. I'm not going to say anything about the Patriots interview because nobody gives a shit about that. But I thought Bret's interview before the match was fantastic. I like that he never even called the Patriot by name. He was just like, I'm going to kick the crap out of this guy. I was like, that is beautiful. He did not even mention his name. And I was like, that's the ultimate sign of disrespect. And I love it. I love Bret giving Vince a death stare every time he walks by that commentary table. That is just so entertaining. Any interactions at all between Bret and Vince are great. The Patriot is terrible. The Uncle Slam moves looked really rough. Like you could see Bret's head just fucking bounce off the mat. It was brutal. So the match itself, I didn't think it was that great. I think Bret has had worse matches. I will say Bret Hart has some really good heat right now. Like he is on, like Austin is on fire as a babyface. Bret Hart is on fire as a heel. Yeah. Like he's really got this crowd hating him. So that is a good part of this. It almost doesn't even matter who his opponent is at this point. The reverse sharpshooter was kind of lame. It kind of took a while to set up, but I said last week or whenever it was that Bret Hart needs to beat this guy clean or I'm going to be pissed. And he fucking beat him with a sharpshooter. And that's perfect. That clean with a sharpshooter. So I actually gave this 3 stars.
Oh.
Believe it or not, like I said, I think Bret has had worse opponents and feuds in the past, but I like the heat that's on display from him. And I enjoyed seeing him beat the living shit out of the Patriot and completely humiliate him after the match was over. That is part of my rating too. So I went with 3 stars.
Well, I'm also going to start with Bret's promo, but I'm going to point something out that I thought was a bit of a gaffe by Michael Cole here. He starts it off by saying, Bret, this is going to be your toughest title match so far since you won the belt. And I'm thinking, isn't this his only title defense since he won the belt? I hope it's his toughest one, but whatever, Michael Cole, you have time to catch on the things, I think. But that one was a bit of a miss for him there. The match, Bret's Bret, and he's able to muster the best out of anyone. And I think this is probably the best we're going to get out of the Patriot, and it's nothing spectacular. when the Patriot rallies, when he takes over, things look bad and the crowd doesn't care. I think the first time he starts the rally, he makes some stupid hand motion to the crowd and they're completely dead. Like they're just sitting on their hands. They don't give a shit to cheer for him. They know he's sloppy and slow and not very entertaining. And again, Bret does his best here. And we get Vader. At one point, Bret's really laying into the Patriot and they're on the outside and Vader comes out and saves the Patriot. So I guess this is official. It's like a babyface turn. He kind of didn't last week. I somewhat questioned it, but it seems like this is confirming it. He's saving our baby faces. He's pro-America. The crowd's cheering for him. So that was confusing to me. But if there wasn't a clear sign that the Patriot had no chance of winning this, then when he failed to get the victory after landing 3 finisher moves, he did 2 Uncle Slams and a Patriot act and still couldn't get the win. And you knew that was the writing on the wall.
Not the Patriot Act, it's the Patriot Missile.
The Patriot Act. The writing was on the wall for the old Patriot after that. The Patriot did thankfully rally a little bit of energy at the end of this match to, I think, give the best looking segment of this match. Him and the Hitman go at it for a little bit, and then it ends with Bret humiliating the Patriot in great fashion. He lands in the sharpshooter, he strangles him with the American flag, all of that shit. Put me in between you two guys. I went with a 2-star.
What'd Meltzer think of this?
Dave gave this 3.25 stars. He said, the fact that Bret Hart beat the Patriot should have surprised nobody, but the near burial of the Patriot just a few weeks after his debut was a bit surprising.
And most welcome.
Yeah.
Well, no, I take that back because, we're probably going to get Paul Bearer managing Vader and the Patriot as a tag team now, right?
Yeah.
So after this, I loved Lawler comparing the Patriots' loss to America's loss in Vietnam.
Vietnam.
and the look that Vince gave Lawler after he said it. That moment, that look on Vince's face was more entertaining than the majority of that entire match was for me. We got a video package then highlighting the past year of The Undertaker's history with almost no mention of his championship run. They glossed over that hard. And that went on for quite a long time. One of the longest video setups we've had in recent memory, I think. We then got a backstage promo from Shawn Michaels. It was frantic. He was moving. The camera was moving. I damn near got motion sickness looking at it. And that is what took us into our final match of the night. Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker ends in a no contest in 16 minutes and 3 seconds. It should be noted that there is a significant amount of time in this match that is not accounted for in the match time because there's action, but the bell doesn't officially get rung until a few minutes into the action. So the fucking song restarted during Shawn Michaels' entrance. It's been a while since that has happened for us. It kept on going.
Put it on
a long one, but just as annoying here. But it was very good to watch The Undertaker's entrance. The lights out, people holding up lighters, thunder, and the bell tolling. That was great shit, pal. Made even better by the fact that he didn't have to pause to take a belt off. This match, for the record, was the only match on this entire card that I had been excited for going into. The rest of these I did not give a shit about. However, that good feeling was tested right off the bat when Shawn started trying to beg off. But Commissioner Slaughter showed up and forced Michaels down the ramp, where The Undertaker then threw referee Mike Chioda onto Shawn from the ring.
I popped my ass off on that.
I immediately realized that all of my concerns were for nothing. There's that stretch of time that I mentioned before that where there's action before the actual bell rang. That was The Undertaker just relentlessly beating the shit out of Shawn Michaels with no fight back from Shawn. Shawn didn't try to fight back once. This was, we like to talk about how these big monsters like The Undertaker do the slow, methodical serial killer, Michael Myers walk. And that was the Undertaker here, just methodically torturing Michaels all around the ring area. And Michaels just a helpless pawn in all of it.
The house. The house, too.
In the house. He tried to beat on the fake door to get out. So that continued up into the ring where Taker hit a fantastic clothesline on an already staggered Michaels. I mean, that was clothesline from hell shit there. And that's where I kind of started wondering, whether or not Shawn was going to get any hits in at all in this match. And I was pretty up on things until Commissioner Slaughter dragged out Earl Hebner to referee the match. That was just a really poor decision, but that did trigger the match to start in earnest. And that bell ringing, it's like it flipped a switch in Michaels, because Michaels got going. And my God, the energy that Shawn Michaels brought into it as soon as that bell rang. It's like the energy of the match got kicked up like several notches all at once. And if I wasn't hooked before, I was hooked at that point. That kept up for a few minutes. Things eventually did slow down into a more normal energy level for a match of this length, but it was nice seeing Earl Hebner take a couple bumps. It's always welcome. Even nicer to see Rick Rude come down and pass some brass knucks to Shawn Michaels. Anytime we get some brass knucks in there, and we get to see them being passed too.
Yes, we actually see the brass knucks. They're not assumed.
It's not some bulge that gets pulled out of the front of somebody's tights.
That foreign object.
Yeah. Then Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Chyna were out, bringing a referee to cover for Hebner because Hebner was fucking down. That didn't work out.
He got goozled.
He
got the goozle. So Hunter ended up beating on The Undertaker at the outside, and I was loving that. Michaels ended up ramming Earl Hebner's face into the top turnbuckle. 5-star, automatic, 5-star right there.
Yep.
I loved the imagery of Shawn, Hunter, and Chyna all taking turns trying to put The Undertaker down, and with the three of them barely able to do it. Like, that is the fucking in-ring storytelling that I love to see with this shit. The ringside camera caught audio of a fan yelling at Hunter Hearst Helmsley. I won't repeat here what was being said, but man, I'm surprised the cock left that audio in, because that was some very raunchy language being tossed at old Hunter. The Undertaker, he ended up choke slamming Earl Hebner again here. I started wishing I could go higher than 5 stars.
11.
Finally, referee Tim White came out to call the match as a no contest. As if it were much of a match to begin with, but we got an official conclusion to the match there. After Hunter and Shawn double-teamed The Undertaker for a while longer, things got a little confusing because the entire locker room emptied to come out and break things up. Some of the factions apparently forgot their enmity because they were so close to each other. But then, like a cherry on top, The Undertaker ended up doing an amazing suicide dive just up and over the top rope, sailing out onto the ramp to wipe out a bunch of guys, including Shawn Michaels. The Undertaker could not be held back, even by the entire babyface side of the locker room. And in that one fell motion, he took out just a dozen fucking people.
And they weren't there to catch him. Let's highlight that.
Yes. And that's more or less where things ended. We faded to black shortly after that. I was honestly a little put off at the start, but the complete story, told from start to finish, and I mean from entrances up until fading to black, this was a 5-star experience for me. I was absolutely entertained and satisfied by the end of it. Ryan, please, as our asshole for The Undertaker, what did you think of this match?
My lordy, am I going to be an asshole for The Undertaker tonight? Because this was a good one. And this would lived up to at least my expectations. And that started with when The Undertaker picked up that ref like a rag doll and threw him at Michaels. It set the tone for this match, and I knew it was going to be a great one. The action up the ramp was good. Shawn started doing those over-exaggerating selling like you were talking about, Joe, when Taker was punching him. And then he did a complete reverse Dickie Murdoch as he rolled down the ramp.
Down in the ring.
But it looked better than Dickie could have ever done it. Like you said, it's The Undertaker manhandling and torturing and punishing Shawn for... did you have a time on how much was before the bell actually rang? Because it was pretty significant.
Yeah, it was a significant amount of time, but I do not have a number on it.
But then the bell does finally ring, and then it turns into the David and Goliath match, you know, and Shawn does a really great job in these type of matches. It goes back and forth, but when Shawn does get the upper hand, the speed and the way that this match just progressed was one of the best matches I've seen in a really long time. And I know we give Shawn a lot of shit, but we praise him every time he's in the ring, because when he gets in there, this is the type of shit that he gives us. You know, I dread every time he comes up with a new excuse to not wrestle because it's missed. And then seeing Earl Hebner get goozled and just beat the fuck out of, you know what it reminded me of? It felt like playing a video game wrestling match where you just continuously beat the shit out of the ref because it's funny. That's what was happening here, because the ref just got fucking kicked more than Shawn, maybe, you know? By the end of this, we start to get prototype DX forms around the ring. And, you know, at this point, there's been enough ref abuse and they finally call a double DQ. But the ending doesn't matter that it was a double DQ. Everything about the way this ended just added and multiplied as to how good this match was. The Undertaker coming off like an absolute unstoppable monster by the end of this. He's just, the whole locker room wasn't able to stop him as he finished with that amazing looking dive. I mean, this is stronger than he ever looked with the belt. The belt.
Yeah.
This was amazing storytelling, amazing match. The action was great. I loved everything about it. 5-star all fucking day.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to watching this. I did not remember this match at all.
No, the cage matches, you know, or the Hell in the Cell, you know, that's famous. Mm-hmm. This one kind of gets forgotten, but it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these two have had a few 5-star classics. They had a couple more recent WrestleMania matches that were really good. They had the Hell in a Cell. And this, I was really looking forward to it because I didn't remember it. I loved all of this. I mean, how could you not?
Yeah.
I mean, there's something about The Undertaker that it doesn't get talked about that much, I don't think, but everybody knows he's the most respected guy in the back. You know, everybody always says that. But matches like this really show how much these guys respect him because they just go out there and they fucking put their body on the line. I mean, look at this. Look at Mick Foley at King of the Ring. Yeah. You know, it's like, when I have this match with The Undertaker, I'm going to fucking bring it tonight. That's what Shawn Michaels was doing here. He was doing all that overselling as a heel that I fucking love. And The Undertaker was being The Undertaker. He was, like you said, Bartlett, being that Michael Myers type character here. Just the psychology between the two, it's really good because The Undertaker has a lot to be mad about right now. I mean, the build up to this match was very good, and that's what makes it even better. It's like, okay, we know why he's pissed and why he's doing what he's doing, and that just made it great too. And you're right about Michaels, Bartlett. When that bell rang, he has that extra gear that nobody else has. You know, when someone whips him into the ropes, or if he's just running the ropes, I mean, he fucking turns it up sometimes. And even against a guy like The Undertaker, who is a slower moving guy, Michaels just has that extra gear that's just, it's crazy to me. I was giving this 5 stars before the bell even fucking rang, to be honest.
Last Monday night, I was almost at a 5-star.
Yeah. And then Earl Hebner getting the absolute shit kicked out of him it maintained the 5 stars, and I did not move from there. So
Earl Hebner taking pillar to post. I loved it.
Yeah.
Easily 5 stars for me, and I loved all the stuff afterwards too. I didn't care too much about the crazy referee stuff because Tim White finally comes in and just stops the madness.
Yeah.
So that sort of helped me forget about the fact that they were just destroying referees and like nobody cared.
Goozing them left and right.
Goozling. So yeah, easy 5 stars for me.
So, I mean, I can't let it pass. It's not often that we get 3 5-star ratings on a match here on the podcast. So it kind of sounds like we're talking a match of the year candidate.
I mean, I'd love to watch it again.
I would too. It almost feels cheap knowing that next month we're going to have possibly another candidate from the same two wrestlers, but I don't care. This one was great.
Yeah.
All right. I'm adding it to the list. Undertaker versus Shawn at Ground Zero. All right. Yeah. And one of the things, I mean, we all touched upon it briefly in our notes there, but something that I really feel needs to be highlighted just a little bit more is the difference in The Undertaker without having the championship. You have The Undertaker here being driven by nothing but, either rage/anger or righteousness in altering, aspects throughout the match. That's all he needs. That's all he has ever needed to look good. That's what drives him. That's, a certain amount of angry righteousness is the kind of thing you would expect from somebody that goes out and harvests fucking souls or whatever the hell he does.
He's a fucking living dead man. I mean,
yeah, that's Ryan. I think you had said that championship belt was an albatross around his neck because it forced him to focus on that as a reason to wrestle when he never needed that reason. He had his own built-in reason as part of one of the best gimmicks ever.
I mean, arguably the best.
Yeah.
And they're fueling the long-term storytelling too, because they didn't mention Kane too much here.
No.
But they made the Undertaker look like this unstoppable monster. Yeah. And in a few weeks, he will look stoppable. So it's part of that story that was great.
Yeah. I think it's crazy that we have how many months of The Undertaker in main events defending as a champion, and not many of those are memorable at all. Like maybe him versus Farouk. But
yeah,
as soon as we get the belt off of him, 5 stars all day long.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, not from Dave.
Oh.
Not from Dave.
What a surprise.
3 3/4 stars. He said it was excellent work, but plagued by so many ref bumps. So he didn't like the ref bumps.
No accounting for taste, I suppose.
If this match would have only been in Tokyo, Japan.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
As we said, we faded to black. So, gentlemen, the most important question of all, at a premium price of $29.95 for the first ever 3-hour in your house. I mean, that's a pretty significant meatball there in this soup. Did you get your money's worth? Joe, why don't you take that first?
I mean, with a match of the year candidate, 5-star match like this, I can't say no. I think I got my money's worth, even though the rest of the show was complete garbage other than the Austin stuff as well. So at least those two things, I think were worth the $30 for sure.
Yeah, I'm in agreement here. I handed out maybe more duds than I ever have in a pay-per-view, but the way it ended with this 5-star match of the year candidate match, I have to say yes, even at the increased premium price, this last match did it for me. Yes.
I'm going to be the odd man out on this one. I said almost, but not quite, because with that increased price of $29.95 also comes that increased time of 3 hours, and so much of this 3 hours was shit. That final match came really, really close to erasing the rest of the pay-per-view and being standalone worth it, but it just
well, how are you going to watch that match again when you won't even pay for it once? What are you going to do?
I know a man with a cheater box and a VHS tape. It's just the entire rest of the pay-per-view, with the exception of Austin stuff, it was a cavalcade of shit. So I did not get my money's worth. Joseph, you have any kind of numbers from the Wrestling Observer for us?
Yeah, the Observer readers were very mixed on this one. 48% thumbs up, 21% thumbs down, and the rest in the middle, which is right around 30%. So very mixed review here. Best match was voted as Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker. Worst match was the triple threat between Farouk, Savio Vega, and Crush.
Yep.
Meltzer's overall comments on the show, he feels that this was a slightly above average show. He thinks the most memorable thing on the show was the angle where Steve Austin gave Jim Ross a stone cold stunner. And that is all.
All right. Thank you, Joseph. Illuminating as always. And that's it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Rasslin' Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and tell all of your friends to tune in to the most bombastic Monday Night Raw review podcast on the airwaves. Next week on Rasslin' Raw, we're going to take a look at the Raw that aired on September 8th, 1997, with matches featuring The Patriot, Piratita Morgan, and many more. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason, and this has been Rasslin' Raw.